Okay, here we go. We're live. And first of all, let me just start by saying welcome to Product as a Star. I am your host, Will Cunningham. And on this show, we will talk to folks interested in getting the word out about products, goods, services, messages, or a call to action. And today's discussion will feature a conversation with Andrew Wyatt, spokesperson for Bill Cosby. Thank you, Mr. Wyatt, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Will, for having me, and happy holidays to everybody, and happy Hanukkah, and I know the Christmas holiday is coming up, so happy holidays to everyone. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So maybe we could start first by just maybe giving us a little bit of your background, like college, school, any special skills that you might have attained, that could have aided you to get into this point.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I grew up in Bessemer, Alabama. Grew up in the projects, 2613 Clarendon Avenue. A shout out to Bessemer. My entire life, I was born and raised here in Bessemer, Alabama. Matriculated at Hard Elementary School, Hard Middle School, just Lanier High School, and went on to go attend Miles College, the only historically black college in the Birmingham area. And then matriculated there. Did a lot of wonderful things there. Worked with Kid and Play from Kid and Play, the house party. Wow. Play was one of my, like a classmate, and he, I would say, was very instrumental, as well as a professor, Ricky Lee, Kenneth Jones. But Play was instrumental in getting me into this business. Christopher Martin, he's the dark-skinned one, not the light-skinned Christopher Reed.
Right.
Always that, but he created a show on the campus called Little Off the Top, and was based in a barbershop. It was before Ice Cube thought of barbershop. It was his vision, and he used to call me the Big A, and did that, and helped create the school first newspaper in the Mile End, and then went on and got an internship with ABC 3340 Television here in Birmingham, Alabama. Was their first black intern from HBCU, and they hired me after 3 days. And I did 7.5 years there. Went on and had an illustrious career working in Fox. I worked in Fox. I was O&O, owned by Rupert Murdoch here in Birmingham.
Wow.
And, I decided, after working in the news business, I saw how we were depicted as a people. And I would sit in the control rooms and watch, the white directors, white producers, how if a shooting happened in a lower economic area, they will always find the worst person to put on television. And they would make fun of that person while the show was going on. They were like, go find a person with no teeth. Go find a black person this way. Because that's how they wanted the world to see us. And I made it a point. I said, while I'm here at Fox, I'm going to start my own firm on the inside of Fox, which is Purpose PR firm, a crisis management, public relations firm. Started that while I was at Fox 6 here in Birmingham.
Really?
Wow. And on the inside, use Fox resources, their money, to travel and cultivate relationships, because I knew I was going to be going on my own. And I officially walked out on my own in 2007. And had the privilege of working with people like Dominique Wilkins, Robin Givens, Bernadette Stanton from Good Times, a lot of great names, and then ended up picking up Bill Cosby in 2011. And I represented a lot of HBCUs, a lot of major corporations, Fortune 500 companies. I've done a lot, and I've always said to people, most people, it's a rarity, and I figure that I'm rare because you don't find too many black guys that have a public relations crisis management firm. It's very rare to see black people in general. And we're not afforded those opportunities, Will, to get those big names. They expect to live in LA, Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, the big city. They wouldn't expect a guy from Alabama to be representing one of the biggest icons in the history of America, Bill Cosby. And but I saw how the news business would teach you how to set people up. And I always said that I was built for doing what I do, and the Most High just blessed me, man, to hone in on that gift and turn it into something great, not knowing that Mr. Cosby would be the litmus test for what I do, but also the litmus test for criminal justice reform and the litmus test to show that no matter who you are, no matter about your wealth, your resources, that you, if you're black, they don't have to have any proof or evidence. They can still take you down.
Right, and that's a fascinating uh, 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 situation you laid out for us, and you getting the skills that you now have, your journey in doing that, the trajectory of what that education propels you to. You mentioned a name that I don't know if a lot of people have heard of. Some of them should know about Rupert Murdoch and his history. And I wanted to, when you said that, I instantly wanted to know, what was that like working around Rupert Murdoch, considering the
I never
public,
worked. I never worked around him. I worked for his news outlet, and I can
his
tell
news
you,
outlet? Okay.
the local Fox station here in Birmingham was O&O owned and operated. You had two owned and operated stations.
Okay.
NBC that was owned by General Electric, and Fox that was the network, Rupert Murdoch, and but it was the same behaviors. You was when you worked at ABC, it was a family shop. When I got over to Fox, it was a culture shock. And I say family shock for ABC because we were like a family. We were able to mingle and interact with each other. The culture shock for Fox was that you wasn't allowed to do that. The general manager didn't want you becoming friends because that was like the divine bunker. And
So in other words, they had to compartmentalize, everything was compartmentalized so that it seems like it was on a need to know basis, almost, as opposed to somebody from marketing going to hang out around the lawyers to maybe see what they can do to sharpen. So it wasn't that type. It was, everything was in its own silo.
The Fox brand in general. I was informed when I went over by my mentors, who ran TV stations. They were like, well, when you go over to this shop, just expect that it's going to be a true culture shock for you because it's a control mechanism. You're truly on a plantation, and people, it looks glamorous, but it's not glamorous. And you will go into a newsroom or a sales meeting, whatever, and they always had something different on how they wanted to tell our story, whether it was sales and marketing or whether it was through news. It's all the same. How you tell that story, do we really create innovative marketing ideas when we go after black businesses? No, we just give them the same. Just buy some spots. We're not trying to create a digital platform for you to help elevate your business because we really don't want to see you grow. But if we know you got a little money to spend, we're going to take it. And we're not going to provide a service. And once they do that, you don't get the money back. You see those things, Will, and you want to change that behavior. And representing Mr. Cosby through these unjust allegations, it afforded me the opportunity to be able to use my skill sets to say, I'm going to use these skill sets that the white man taught me. I'm gonna show the world how to take a guy who has been labeled the pariah and humanize him. The same guy who used his comedy, used his celebrity to humanize all races, all genders, all religions. I'm going to have to humanize him, and it was a special. It was special for me because of what he gave us in Fat Albert, the Cosby Show, A Different World. And now you see how America, white America, and not all white people are bad. I mean, because Black America was just as egregious as some white, who you have to fight those powers. And you have to come up with unique ways to fight those powers. And they gave me, him and Mrs. Cosby gave me carte blanche to hire, fire, get rid of people, and come up with a strategy. And that's why we're here today. He has been vindicated on Wednesday, June 30th, by the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court, and they vacated his conviction.
Wow. Incredible. Now, while we're on this topic, it would behoove me to ask about some of the what are you facing coming ahead as far as clearing him? I mean, because here we saw a well-organized machine get all on the same page and create a narrative and sort of create this parade of excitement around Mr. Cosby. So we know that he's been exonerated. Now, just because he's been exonerated in a public, I mean, in a court, doesn't mean that the public is willing to let go of their vitriol, right? So I wanted you to kind of explain what are some of the obstacles that you are going to have to tackle as far as getting him humanized, as far as getting him seen in his true light. What has to happen, do you think?
Continue to put out the truth and the facts.
Okay.
Like they always have told us, and you heard this, growing up, especially as a black man, if you don't want a black person to read something, put it in a book. So the new book that they put it in today is social media. Social media was created to take black people away from current events of the day. You see something on social media and you automatically believe that it's true because you don't go and do research, because we want that microwave information now. We want it quick. We want it fast. And they figured us out. And I think the only way you can humanize someone is that you don't cooperate with corruption. And we never cooperated with corruption. We never cooperated with it. We fought it. We fought it, and we fought it without being afraid. I tell everybody, I didn't have the privilege of being fearful about what a person would say about me. And my own, fraternity brothers who are big celebrities of Omega, and they're Omega Psi Phi fraternity. Steve Harvey, Ricky Smiley bashed me. Ricky, I knew Ricky when he was trying to get his comedy career going here in Birmingham, and we all would help him. But you watch those people because they're controlled, okay? And they get out and say, well, this guy's the worst guy in the world. Well, because I refuse to cooperate with the corruption, I'm the worst guy in the world. I refuse to give up my ethics and integrity just to make a quick buck. My job is saying that you had a TV show called Scandal, and you had a fictitious character called Olivia Pope. Well, I'm just the Oliver Pope, and and that's what I live by. I try to be the Oliver Pope.
Well, this is fascinating because guess what? I mean, here we are talking about the attempts at cancel culture. I had this lined up to speak to you about as far as cancel culture. And one of the things that you talked about former peers all of a sudden changing their tune on you. And I have it right here in my notes, like cancel culture and those that it affects in the immediate orbit. We don't hear about that. We just hear, we get this selective rage button, and they hit the rage button based on our emotions and say, this is what you need to be mad at today. This is what you need to be angry at today. But we don't talk about the people, their livelihoods that is at stake. We don't talk about the convenience it is to cancel somebody just at the press of a button through our phones and make sound we're making really long-term judgments off of snap judgments. You know what I mean? These are moments in history that don't have all the information, and we're making these quick judgments. And the people around the situation also get adversely affected, and they don't get any voices. They don't get any heard for. We don't really see the impact. So could you talk about some of the people around Mr. Cosby that have had to deal with what you guys have had to deal with? I mean, you alluded to it earlier in talking about, some of the people who have changed their note. And I'm going, that's great, because I have it right here. How have you been affected by that? If we can go into that a little bit more.
Look, people have attacked. I've lost a lot of business along the way.
Man,
I've lost a lot of business along the way. I lost a lot of black business along the way. I've had some of my own people walked away from me, which is not surprising, because those same people that looked like us, that Mr. Cosby gave over $200 million to HBCUs, walked away from him. The media has taught and has programmed black people to treat each other like a commodity, not like human beings. We're nothing but clickbait right now. That's all we will ever be right now, clickbait. They decide to click, they could click a button, and they could overnight They can make us the pariah overnight. They could make us into the monster overnight. It doesn't take, you know, a plan of action of saying, okay, let's start with his family. Let's start with his job. No, they can instantly cancel you at any given time. And people always ask me the question. They said, well, why haven't you ever had a social media page or website? I said, because I don't need to be controlled. You know, and I refuse to be controlled. I understand, you know, that's the short-term new way of the world. It's the short term of getting information. But what they don't tell you is they would get us, it's like white flight. You know, when we moved into certain communities, right? The white people, they moved out and they moved further out to the suburbs. It's the same way with social media. It's white flight. Let's lure the blacks in.
That's deep.
Let's lure the blacks into it. But traditional media would never fade away.
Right.
They get us away from the tradition, and we get caught up into the microwave instant gratification of being famous because we got 2-3 million followers. But eventually, just like MySpace went away, Black Planet went away. These entities will eventually go away.
Right.
And that's all that we're going to have. And then what are they going to do? Now you're seeing gentrification. You know, communities now being gentrified. The communities that they flew away from because we moved into, they're coming back to it. It's the same thing with media. They're going to always come back to traditional. And we have to always stay on top of what's going on in traditional media opposed to what's going on social media.
That's right. And the traditional media is going to be sort of a hint or clues to what's really going on and how they're really moving. And it's going to take us to be present to be able to decipher this stuff in real time. And that just means that we don't have the luxury of making snap judgments based on social media. We have to we actually have to, you know, we have to get so much knowledge accumulated that we have to move into the applied sciences wing at some point, right? So I believe the true way to combat a narrative is through action. You know, you got to have a plan of action, and that's why I have this show, Product as a Star. I want people to get their message out, their products, their goods, or their services independently without anybody curating or any gatekeeper saying, hey, you have been sanctioned to do X, Y, and Z. It's this whole thing of, you know, appearing to be one thing that you're not. We have a free and open media, allegedly. However, but there's a monopoly on those who can control and hit the buttons. So it's one of these things that looks one way, but really it's a misdirection. And we need to be present and vigilant on that forefront, so that information will accumulate in us taking action, such as this and what you're doing and how you're even breaking, you know, giving me this opportunity to even listen to this wisdom is doing your part to help raise the nation. So I really appreciate this time that you're making for us. We do have a couple of more questions for you, but I kind of wanted to hear you talk a little bit more about is there's anything like in entertainment or anything on your schedule or anything like that that's coming up that's really got you excited. You know,
we have I have a book that I'm working on with Mr. Cosby. It's a beautiful book being written by Fred Williams about my journey, not just with Mr. Cosby, but my overall journey. How did I get to this stage just to, you know, give people who look like me, that family who might be living in 2613 Clarendon Avenue in the projects, you know, giving that kid who, you know, like me, I sat on the projects floor watching the floor model TV. And I turned to my grandmother who adopted security on the family last name. We called her Bay. Her name was Wyatt. And she had a 7th grade education. It was 14 of them. But she taught us mathematics because she went to a school like Little House on the Prairie. And I was watching Bill Cosby on Electric Company teach me my ABC. And I said, I'm going to do that one day. And she said, boy, shut your mouth. And I wish he was here to see me do that one day. And what we have to understand is that we can't speak those things into existence, but speaking them into existence, you know, you have to also put some electricity in it, meaning movement. You can't rely on somebody else to just give it to you. You got to go out there and earn it if you really want it. But yeah, I look at, this book that's coming out, man. It's going to be the roadmap to a lot of things. I'm the executive producer of a great movie that we're working on called Heroes of Black Wall Street with Danny Glover.
Wow.
And Fred Williams, who's writing my book, that will be coming out. Fred wrote the screenplay along with Judith Rutherford James and Adja Cowan. Judith Rutherford James is partners with Richard Dreyfuss. And Adja Cowan, his artwork is in every museum in the world, man. Check him out. His photography, he was the apprentice to Gordon Parks. And he looks like Gordon Parks, so he's one of the producers. And Danny Glover is a consultant, so working on that project and working on some projects with Mr. Cosby, some new shows where he has given me executive producer title. So we got a lot of things moving, man, and that's the blessing. But it's things that are going to uplift us, to not show as victims but victors. Because that's what media has continued to show us as victims. We're not victims. We're victors. We are a great people. If we were not so great, they tell us, well, leave this country. Get out of here. Well, we built this country. We built the White House through the backs of slaves, okay? But they tell us to leave, but we can't really leave because why? You got to have a passport to leave. They ought to tell you something great about us that they want to keep us here because we have to even get a passport to leave. So once we understand who we are and what we are, we could do so much better. And as Mr. Cosby, his mantra is the revolution is in the home. That's where it starts in the home.
Right.
No matter if you're a single parent, whether mother, father, the revolution is in the home. You control what comes through your door or what comes out of your door. And that's what we have to continue to do.
And we have to control how we respond to it, which is a very key ingredient. Choosing our certain response is key, as opposed to just acting out of past conditioning and past behavior. Intentionally choosing a new path is something that our people are going to have to get used to from here on out. We're going to have to choose a new path and then choose several more after that. That's just the pathway of iteration. I mean, we're already come so far, but we have so much work to do. And it's just paramount for us to put our heads together and, start building our own version of a Tower of a Babel or something like that. And you're right. A lot of people do want us to leave. They say, go back to your country. And to which I always say, can we take our IP with us?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It kind of,
it
kind of ends it. It really ends it. So I really enjoy
what they want to do, Will, these racist white people, I'm not saying all because we got the same racism in our own structure, in our own community. But what they have done is taught us how to hate and who to hate and when to hate. I always remind people, I said, how you don't see Gloria Allred going after Harvey Weinstein. Because
why is that?
First and foremost, he's one of them. But the key component and ingredient is that her daughter, Lisa Bloom, was representing him. She's the one that had him to write the press release admitting to raping these women and sexual assault to get almost $200-300 million out of him, and they were going to settle the claims. Go Google it. She was his
representative. So are you
Lisa
saying
Bloom, Gloria Allred's daughter, was his representative? So they're not going to talk about Harvey Weinstein. They're going to protect their own.
Shouldn't that have been a potential conflict? I remember I had a situation, much smaller, car accident. I lived next to, me and the guy were high school friends, and we had the same lawyer, and one of the lawyers was like, I can't represent you guys because, so I'm just wondering if that happened on a car accident level, shouldn't there be a conflict of interest, like on a magnitude of that big?
It should have been, but see, they had a scheme to get money out of Harvey, and Lisa was saying, okay, admit you're guilty, put monies aside, then my mother and we will listen to each woman's claim and we will award them a certain amount of millions of dollars, but we will get a percentage also. That's the game. But see, people won't take the time to research this stuff. Look at Gloria Allred's history.
Civil
Shaquille
court
O'Neal,
versus regular court, right? Civil court, if they're, it's like
right?
almost a tell. If they're going to civil court, it's a money
About
thing.
money,
If they're pushing, if it's a judicial issue, they're pushing about justice, right? And that should be a
right?
tell. Okay.
It's not about justice. It's about money. And
Okay.
you look at Allred and her daughter. Look at all of the black men that they have gone after: Michael Jackson, O.J. Simpson, Shaquille
Mm,
O'Neal, Tiger Woods. The
wow.
list, Bill Cosby. Um, the list goes on and on. They have this hatred for black successful men in America, and but they don't go after their own. And we have to study that behavior. It was sad to see all of the great things that Mr. and Mrs. Cosby did to uplift us as a people. And those same people and those same celebrities, those same friends, political friends in the political arena, disappeared. They dissipated.
Mm.
They canceled themselves out of their friends' lives, because of an allegation. I would say this to you, Will. Anybody can make an allegation. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean it to be true. Anybody can be an accuser. Doesn't mean that accuser is accurate in their claims, but nobody takes the time to vet anything anymore.
There's this idea called social proof or whatever, and it's based on an idea of a certain amount of people going at a certain narrative that convinces the masses to do that. And you see this like in marketing with clubs, dance clubs. They'll have a line around the block, but there's nobody in there. That's to
Right.
sell the image that there's something happening over here that you're not a part of, and things of this nature. And so, like, I'm bringing this up to say that in regards to something like where we bring a situation to the media, and there's a group of people that are coming out regularly saying that this is the case against this person, uh, which is the case with Mr. Cosby.
Mhm.
It's hard for us to get in there and sort of find the truth, because we get put to sleep with sayings like, why would so many people lie? How are you going to keep so many people? But these are simple things that you can really address, and kind of, I mean, they sequester people on movies 500 at a time and nobody can talk. I mean, these are simple
Right.
answers. There's really, so I'm just bringing this up because you're making me see something in a whole new light, like, and especially in terms of social proof. And this is dangerous. You're right. We need to learn about this, because if a group of people can come together and they have the power and the savviness and the control and the access to media, and they can manufacture whatever narrative that they want on you, and let's say that it's all just designed to make money. They never want any criminal thing, and you can't afford you can't afford to, let's say you can't afford to defend yourself in a court of law.
Right.
Can't that group of people sort of drain your bank accounts by just putting you in court
Oh yeah.
with these
Oh
fake?
yeah. Look.
That's a problem. That's a problem.
It's all about the frequency. The frequency of anything can either deem you guilty or innocent. It's all about the frequency. If the frequency of somebody and a multitude of people said, Will Cunningham is the greatest guy in the world, man. He's the greatest product pusher in the world, man. When you go on his show, anything that you have, a movie or whatever, if you a star, he's going to take your stardom to a level that you've never seen. It's the frequency. That frequency, that same frequency, though, can turn you into the world's most hated individual.
So there's duality to it.
Right. And it's all about the frequency. I always talk about, it's an organization that I love and I have the honor of representing, called Culture City, culture with a K.
Culture with the K, Culture City. Okay.
Culture City, and Culture City is based out of Birmingham, but they focus on sensory disability, learning differences, and mental disability. And what they have done was founded by two medical doctors, husband and wife, from the Philippines, Dr. Julian Maha and Michelle Kong. And the amount of celebrities that sit on their board is amazing. But what I love about them, our logo is in every NBA arena, every NFL stadium, every Major League Baseball stadium. And what we do, we come into cities. We just train first responders and law enforcement officers for Salt Lake City, Utah. We're going to be doing LAPD. And what we do, we train them on how to deal with people with disabilities, sensory disabilities, mental disabilities. And we have saved so many Black and brown people lives because those are the ones that get gunned down.
Right.
I was sitting talking to Dr. Maha, and I said, man, imagine if Black and brown will all play together. And we talked about this whole frequency thing and how Culture City has turned into this movement. And I was saying to him, I said, but how is it that you guys could take this movement? He said, look, man, once you get connected to white America, and he said, we're brown. He said, once they take the frequency up and say you're good, everybody wants to touch you.
Right.
The same thing with us. But what we got to understand is that once our frequency get up, we cannot say, oh, I got to forget about shows like Will Cunningham show. See, that's what happens. We get our frequency up and we forget how we got there.
Mm.
We forget because now we don't got the frequency of this of the highway across the street. What always separated the upper echelon from the lower economic is a railroad.
Mm-hmm.
So in any city, there's a railroad.
Yeah, you're the wrong side of the tracks. Yeah.
Wrong side of the tracks. So when you go on the other side of the tracks, they elevate you. So now they own you. Well, since they created you like Frankenstein, they have the methods and the formula to destroy you. Because while they create you, they get all of the dirty laundry that's in your hamper basket, okay? And they know when, if you get out of control or you get out of pocket, they know when to air that dirty laundry.
Wow. So that's like leverage. Yeah.
It's all about leverage. And we don't know how to say, okay, yeah, they have the leverage, but you know what? I know how to protect my brand and my image. I'm never going to forget about my own. I'm going to always do their shows. I'm going to elevate them because when I get in a situation, they're going to be there in that courtroom. They're going to be there to tell my story. They're going to be there to put out the truth and facts. No special favors, just the truth and the facts.
That's fascinating. This is a revelation for me too, because it makes me want to go into an overflow with you about this. It makes me want to have a part two, you know what I mean? A to be continued with all of this, because I'm getting a lot out of it personally, but it sounds like you were going to say something else. Please, I don't want to cut you.
No, I'm fine. Keep going.
Oh yeah. So it's fascinating because it begs the question in the scenario that you laid out of them being able to create us and put us on an elevated platform, and then should we not act right, or should we not jump in high enough, then they could take it. It begs the question about dependency. I mean, because if we're dependent on them to make us, then surely they can destroy us. And is there another way that we can secure our own independence in these financial times, with the opportunity and the networks that we have, so that we can add value to our own communities and our own selves? And we are the coolest thing happening on the planet. That's obvious. That's been quantified, verified many times over. And so wouldn't it just be a matter at that time for them wanting to come over to us because we're so cool and we got it popping? But we do have to be careful of what happened with Black Wall Street, because they will drop a bomb on some stuff. So, but again, dependency. Sounds like if we're dependent on them to get our credentials and our things like that, then yeah, we're playing right into the hands of to these predators.
I always say, Will, that integration ruined who and what we are and what we were supposed to be, because we had the best food, we had our own clothing store, our own businesses. We had our own mechanics. We had our own plumbers. But we wanted to go and taste a bland hamburger with no seasoning. We had the best of everything. All we had to do was elevate us. We didn't need to be a part of them. But we
Right.
said, oh, I want to be a part of them. I want to prove something. You had nothing to prove because you were successful in your own right. But we don't believe in us. That's the problem. I'm not going to go give the old cliches that, oh, we need to put our money together in jail together. It's never going to happen. You know, Oprah, Michael Jordan, nobody, they're not going to put their money together. She's not going to do it. You know,
You're going to get taxed.
yeah, you know, and here's the problem. You know, that's how they teach us to not work together, to not become one. But I will say is that we all are wealthy. And people say, well, okay, well, I'm struggling to pay my bills. But wealth to me is great health. If you got great health
Right.
and if you can maintain the immediate lifestyle that you have today. See, when you look at rich versus wealth, a lot of those athletes that you see and entertainers that you see, they're rich. Wealthy people are like the Buss family who owns the Lakers.
Right.
You know, because they not only own the Lakers, they own the Staples Center. They own where the actual you have the statuettes of the athletes up. They own all of that. They pay for the athletes to travel. They pay for their food. Why? Because they can maintain everything. Majority of the players who play for them can't maintain.
Right.
You know,
Right.
they
Because they're
can't
just
maintain
rich.
the car that they're driving. They're leasing the cars. There's a big difference. And when we understand we are a wealthy group of people, and it's not about driving the latest car. Look, I represent one of the biggest names in the world. I drive a Kia Soul. I'm just saying, you know, we have to always understand when we go buy those cars, we're not buying those cars for white people. They had them before us. We're buying them for black people because we don't have the show enough houses to invite them over to have the house party. Our house is the car is on wheels. So we drive through the neighborhood to say, see, I'm successful. That's what we have to get out that mentality.
Right. Successful is not to be displayed. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
you know, there's no need to
Not
display your success. It's a lifestyle. It's a whole
it is
mindset. It's
a
not
movement.
just about,
It's a movement.
yes, it's not trinkets.
Right.
Well, this has been fascinating. Andrew Wyatt, man, please come back on the show. Or like
Man,
let's connect, man.
look, man, as long as you have an internet connection and a computer, you got me.
All right, man. Hey, I'm taking you up on that offer. You can't be that close to Bill Cosby and think I'm not going to take you up on that offer.
You got me, man.
Well, I appreciate you, man, and this has been excellent, man. I've gotten a lot from it. I myself, just really quick before we leave, I'm the founder of my own software company, software engineer myself. It's a proprietary software that takes place inside of smart vehicles. We issued a cryptocurrency for it. It's out there doing its thing right now. We're very close to really changing the ecosystem of what it means for individuals and independents to advertise. So now we've created an environment to where independent artists or independent business owners can get their music in front of millions of people and create algorithms to deliver their products, goods, and services, just like the big guys up at Google or Netflix or at the big labels. And it truly excites us over here at our company to be making connections with you. And it's a Black-owned company. We have every culture in our company, but it's Black-owned, and everybody's focused on it being a Black-owned. So I have community support outside of the diaspora, but it's a beautiful thing. People are coming together, and I'm glad. So what you just told me and what you shared with me in our platform, I'm personally going to be able to take some goodies from that, and because it strengthens me on my goal. And when you say I got you in my network now, I'm definitely going.
Hey, I appreciate you got man. Look, you got me. We are the real Black Wall Street. We are. And I always tell everybody, I said the richest man on Black Wall Street was J.B. Stratford. He owned the Stratford Hotel. His great grandson is a billionaire in Chicago, black guy, John Rogers, who's the co-CEO of Ariel Investment with Melanie Hobson, who's married to George Lucas. Check it out. That's his great grandson. So it's around us. We are the true Black Wall Street, man. And I just appreciate you for having me on, man. And happy holidays to you and your family, all of those.
Man, blessings.
And everybody on your platform. Thank you so much for taking the time to support us and listen to us and stand behind Mr. Cosby and just look at the truth and the facts. That's all we ever asked for. What we saw yesterday in the news with this district attorney, he has an obsession with Mr. Cosby. And as I always say, you know, fan is short for fanatics, and he's a fanatic. And but what we were able to do, it was bigger than Bill Cosby. It was about every black man and black woman in America to say that, you know, we got a formula now. We got a formula to do away with this type of corruption they're trying to bring to our family, our black family. We were the litmus test, and we've been tried, true, and tested. So, man, thank you so much. You have a wonderful day. And
blessings to you.
Giving me opportunity.
All right. Until we meet again, friend.
Thanks.
Peace.
Peace.